Good day, everybody. This is Dan McCormick, the host of the Greatest Salesman podcast. We want to welcome you wherever you may be joining us today. And if you're new to our show, we are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We love your comments if you're on Facebook. We'll have an unbelievable show today. It happens to be episode number 34. I'm completely fired up about it. And of course, this entire process started in 1968 when the great Og Mandino penned this amazing book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And of course, I'm only 5 years old in 1968, so I didn't know a whole lot about the launch of that book, especially Rich DeVos. I didn't know what that would have been holding up on stage. But I do know that Og had a philosophy for living. He had a philosophy for writing. He spoke in such an eloquent manner, and it is just an honor to be the podcast, to be the ambassador to the Og Mandino Company. If you're new with us, we certainly hope that you will be able to not only purchase the book, have the book, read the book, study the scrolls. We'll talk about that. We've already got Scotland in the house. We've got Illinois in the house. We want to welcome you guys wherever you may be joining us from today. I hope as you go with us and you follow along in the series of the Greatest Salesman guest speakers, you'll review the show on any of our podcast sites. You can go to thegreatestsalesman.com. You can always download any of the guests. You can like, you can share, you can comment, and of course, the world of podcasts loves your reviews. And so we would love your reviews as well. If you're live, Texas, we welcome you. And Chicago, we welcome you. It is an honor to be here each and every week. It is a book that was put in my hand, as my guest will attest. The man's name was Larry Shine that put this book in my hand and forever changed my life because obviously it changed his life. And it's great to have Troy Alexander in the house. Great to have you, Troy. But Larry, I remember exactly when we met. And the reason being is because I have my application for Herbalife right here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So I got my application. So I know the date. And the date that I signed up was August 12th, 1982. And
okay, that was a year later than I thought. But anyway, okay, I remember the times well.
You and Mark made a trip to the Red Lion in Bellevue, Washington in September of that year. And I remember that my first check came in for a whopping 1 penny. There's the check for 1 whole penny, everybody. So no matter who you are and where you're from. But Larry, it's great to have you. And how are you doing?
Doing great, Dan. Really appreciate being on your show. I appreciate what you're doing. I've seen some of the other guests that have been on, the friends and cohorts of mine. So it's kind of like, sitting around the campfire and talking, man. So I love it.
Got a lot to talk about. I got props along my desk galore here. But you know what I love to do, Larry? I love to start off each and every show and welcome Africa's in the house. We got Africa. We got, Austria, Australia. We got Illinois and Tennessee. It's great. But I love Larry, and I take notes on each and every episode live while we go. I love to ask, you and I have talked a lot about your background growing up. I mean, we've heard the story many times, but a lot of people today on the Greatest Salesman podcast maybe have never heard. But what are the 3 things you think that have shaped your life or each and every day of your life?
The 3 things that have shaped my life? Golly, that's an interesting one. Okay, very, very interesting. Obviously, I would have to think in terms of my family upbringing. I don't know how many people out there ever saw the movie The Grapes of Wrath. Okay, that was during the later 30s, early 40s with the World War II going on, with the migration from the Dust Bowl to California. That was kind of my heritage. Okay. I was born in 1945, right at the end of World War II, and I'm having these dates and people, what the heck is this guy? How can this guy be breathing? But I was born in 1945 in California after my family migrated from Texas to California. And back then they had borders up on when you're driving into the States. They had the patrol there, and I think it was $20 a head. You had to have a $20 for every person in the car. They wouldn't let you in the country into the state, and so that kind of mentality of some people out there might hear the phrase that another day, another dollar. That came out of that era, which means if you were working and you had a job, you got $1 a day for that. And that was a very positive, another day, another dollar. And so the work ethic is where I'm going with that, Dan. And my dad taught me, he said, listen, you can always get a job no matter what. He said, it may not be the job you want, it may not pay what you want, but you can always get it. He said, once you get it, here's how you keep it. He said, if you're getting paid for 8 hours worth of work, give the man 10 hours worth of value for 8 hours worth of work. And that's something that's natural to me. It's natural to my heritage. And so I would have to say that work ethic, and you want two more now on the same thing?
Absolutely, man. Tell me about it.
I would have, those probably would be a little bit more easier and a little bit more specific for me, but it was the meeting that was in 1968, when I came to, on May 4th, 1968, when I walked into the Hyatt Hotel in San Jose, California. It was the first time in my life that I'd ever been in a hotel. And I came to that fateful meeting to find out about then what wasn't called network marketing. It was not called multi-level. It was called pyramiding. Okay. And it acted and functioned like that. It really did. Okay. But I didn't go for the opportunity. I went because I'd never been in a hotel before. And I used to drive by there doing construction work all the time. And they had that port cachet, where you drive your car underneath and they open your doors. I thought that was so cool. And at the time, I was a long-haired hippie construction worker. And I know, but most of your audience probably don't know, I never finished formal schooling. I quit school at 16 to go to work in construction. And the reason I quit is because I wasn't going to graduate, because I never completed the oral book report. Back then, you had to do an oral book report to pass English. And that means you had to read the book, you had to write about the book, then you had to walk across the stage in front of your classmates and share a little bit about it. And I was too shy. I mean, I just too shy and scared to death. And so 2 years in a row, I just couldn't do it. And so I knew I wasn't going to graduate. So I went to 16. Next day, I was working in my construction field. And that's what I never thought about doing anything other than did cement work. And I worked on my hands and knees. And I can tell you, I loved it. I worked with my dad, my brothers, my cousins, my uncles. It was a guy deal. And all we did was talk construction, think construction. It was all what it was. And it was a guy thing. And I loved it. Never considered doing anything different until I got that call. And I got that call. And the only reason I went, Dan, life is funny, but the only reason I went was to go to the hotel, because I'd never been to one. And I got there, and none to say the less, I was an undesirable guest, okay? Because they heard about hippies, but not too many of them had seen one. And I put on my best beads. I figure I'm going to a hotel, I'm going to look as good as I possibly can. But I'm leading up to the two most important things that happened. And at that night, the gentleman giving that meeting was Bobby DePew. Bobby DePew became my all-time mentor, teacher, everything. Bobby used to be a former school teacher, and I consider him, and most people that understand the past understand that he was the original strategist and tactician in network marketing. That's why I learned from him. But he was giving the meeting, and he was a very mild-mannered guy, very 5'9", very frail guy, very mild-mannered in speaking. And I felt like I was the only one he was talking to in the room, Dan.
Wow.
And people didn't want me there. Think about inviting your negative brother-in-law, who's an accountant and a lawyer, to come to your meeting, and being sitting next to the homeless guy with his cart with his tent in it. That was the kind of way that I felt there, because they didn't want me there. And but I felt like Bobby was just talking to me, and he said something so interesting at the end of the meeting. It caught my attention. I wasn't saying I'm going to buy, I'm going to go, but I got my attention. He said, it's obvious here that you can see we're making a lot of money, and you can taste it. You can smell it, when that's around. And he says, I'd like to promise you that you can make this kind of money too. He said, but I can't. He said, but I can tell you this. He said, what if it only turns out 10%? 10% for you, what has turned out for us. And interesting enough, I gave away 90% and took ownership of the 10%. And someone said, well, that's not big enough thinking. It was big enough for me. Big enough to me to say, maybe I can do that. I couldn't think about what I would call the Lamborghini bikini conversation. I couldn't think about that, but I could think about this. Okay. And got to know Bobby very well. And the other thing that happened that night was, as you well know, and a lot of people do, another guest that night that joined the same meeting, the same company that night, 1968, was Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn and I came to the same meeting, joined the same company. Jim went on within 90 days to become the vice president of training. And having Jim and Bobby in my life and become as close as I did with them, nobody spent as much personal time and stage time with either one of them, especially with Jim, than myself. And treasured moments, transformed me, gave me the leading edge, the cutting edge that I needed for my life, and to be able to learn the stuff that I've learned to pass it on to others. So those are the three main things I would.
I love it. I just love it when people recognize their family. And I think that that's really a neat thing that you shared about the grapes of wrath kind of concept and the idea of another dollar, another day. And I mean, everybody comes from a paradigm that's interesting. And the contrast that you just shared there is rather interesting, obviously, to think about that 10% versus the Lamborghini bikini contest is something that obviously 2020, that's kind of like, okay, I think I can try to get that 10%. And we know that the world of direct selling has just exploded in mass. And you kind of give that. And by the way, I want to congratulate you. Tom Chenault's on the show. He congratulated you on being on the cover of the direct selling legend. Larry Thompson was once the architect of wealth building by the Wall Street Journal, with more than 50 years of experience in direct selling. Along with Mark, the founder of Herbalife, who laid the foundation, what has become one of the largest brands in the world of direct selling. And Larry, your new book came out, which is not new, but it's new because it's got additional people in it. But before we talk about that, you've got your mentor, Bobby DePew, Mark Parkhurst, and you right here in that great picture right there. And I think a great value proposition for our listeners today, because we're always trying to teach people by example. But in that picture, you talk about the mental projector and Sinaloa. It's a concept that not everybody uses, but you've never veered from it. Maybe share a little bit about that, because it's just a fascinating picture.
Well, the picture there comes back. There's a whole lot of stuff there, okay? But getting to the mental projector and Sinaloa, I'll lead up with that. But the first training class I ever attended in my life, Dan, was with Jim Rohn. Now, we weren't in the same lineage, and he was most people know Jim as the business philosopher, the lecturer, and the philosopher. If you get Jim one time, you get him, and you got the stuff. Yeah. He's all of that. But I knew Jim Rohn as that. But I also knew Jim Rohn as a traveling partner when I brought him into Herbalife in 1985, and I worked with him throughout the 70s also. Okay, but I knew him as a distributor. My first experience with Jim Rohn was we were both distributors, okay? And so that's a whole different ball game. And so Jim had his first training class 3 weeks after I joined this company, Bestline Products, in the same company. He invited everybody to come because Bobby was trying to groom him up for vice president of sales and training, but Jim didn't want to come right in. He said, I'm going to build an organization, a very valuable lesson for me. And I used it throughout my career. I want to go out here so that the field will accept me and do it, which he did. But he had that open training and he had titled it PMA. Okay. And PMA. So when they were doing a little sales pitch on it, come PMA, it stood for positive mental attitude.
Yes.
Now, I didn't know what an attitude was except how to flip my long hair and scratch at the appropriate time, at the appropriate audience. You know what I mean? That was the only attitude I knew, man, and look good on my motorcycle, going down front of the candy store. But I didn't know what attitude was. A positive mental attitude, had no clue. Okay. And I went to that training of Jim's, and it's interesting. And I almost didn't because it was $10 a head, $10 to come for this 3-hour training class. And boy, that was a big decision for me, but I went.
That's a lot of money.
For me, it was a big money, but I was only making like $6.50 an hour, and so to me, I equated it like that. And, but anyway, I went to that, and I got to tell you, Dan, I got Jim the first time I heard him. And I got it. And I remember when that meeting was over, I waited till everybody left. And it was so out of character for me. I waited till everybody left. And then I finally went up and looked at him, very meekly shook his hand and looked at him and said, Mr. Rohn, I don't know about anybody else, but I got your message. And part of that message was the mental projector. Okay. And that mental projector, which is so vital, and it's in the book, it's in our academy, we got it out there. And they, in so many places they can get this, but the mental projector, I want you to think about, people don't even know what a projector is anymore. But when you go to the movie theater, okay, and you sit there at the screen, you're watching it, there's a projector behind us. That's the thing. And Jim said, we have a projector. And he said, and if you're going to have a projector and you're going to watch a movie, you got to have a screen, you got to have a movie, you got to have a projector. And he said, the only thing left is you got to make a decision about what you're going to see, what you're going to watch on that screen. And he said, so let's make some choices back here. And, let's choose 4 or 5 films. I'll just make some stuff up. Superman, Batman, Adventure. You got my points. Having half a dozen pictures and say, I want to see Superman. Okay. And we'll say, okay. And so you put the film in the projector. Okay. And you have a choice. What are you going to put in? What film you're going to choose is what film's going to show up on the screen. And he said, you have a choice. That's the big key. We have a choice on what we're going to see, what we want to see. And so we say we want to see Superman. We sit back there and all ready with the popcorn and everything. And Batman comes up. And we said, wait a minute. We thought we were going to see Superman. We'll say that is Superman. No. Batman is here. So logic and reason says bad choice, wrong choice, not bad choice, but wrong choice. If you want to see Superman, you got to choose the film. So now we change the projector to the mind. Okay. It's the mind. And then we put the screen as the screen of life. Okay. And now we still have choice what we want to see. And if we're looking out at that screen and we're seeing unhappiness, guess what? It's because we chose the film. We have choice. We can move it back and forth. Sadness, happiness, success, failure, whatever. You know how we're also critical of ourselves. And whatever's shown on that screen at that moment in time, it's because it's here. You have to choose. And so when I first learned that from Jim, it was a battle. And finally I had to learn, and here's what he taught me in one of our private conversations. He said, Larry, you're shooting for 100%. And that what I'm talking about, he says, you're shooting for 60 minutes in an hour. He said, it'll never happen. He said, I've been doing this for years and it doesn't happen 60 minutes an hour. He said, your goal is to shoot for 31 minutes in the hour.
Wow.
If you go for 31 minutes an hour where you have, it might be 30 seconds here, 12 seconds over there, 15 minutes over here. He said, that as soon as you have 31 minutes in an hour, that you have you chose the right film. It's showing on the screen of life, activity, worry, fear, frustration, happiness, acceleration, whatever it may be. He said, we call you a winner. And so that mental projector was a huge deal. Yeah. And you threw in Sinaloa, and you talked about Mark Parkhurst there. My first venture, and too long of a story to get here now, outside of my home, I'd never been away from my home in my life. Okay, I'm talking 300 or 400 miles. And I end up in El Paso, Texas. And to be trying out for a regional director corporate position as a distributor and going out there and opening up the state of Texas, okay? Nobody in the state of Texas but me, 6 months before I'm finishing submit on my hands and knees and never knew anything about anything. And I'm in a state by myself, all by myself. And I can go out there and get business.
No internet, no phones, no text messaging. A long distance phone call would have bankrupted you.
You could not talk long distance at all.
Couldn't do it. It was expensive, right?
Yeah.
So you're out there all by yourself.
I was taught Sinaloa. And Sinaloa is simply the safety in number and law of average. There's safety in numbers. If you do something over a prolonged period of time, there's safety in those numbers. The 3-shot freeze, the free throw, okay? There's safety in numbers, and those numbers always develop a law of average, okay? No matter what it is. And it was the baseball example that Bobby shared with me, with Babe Ruth and all of that. It's in the book and stuff, but how he used to have that great smile on his face when he was home run king forever. Most people don't know who he is, or even Hank Aaron who he is. But anyway, you guys get the point. But Babe Ruth used to have this unique smile on his face when he knocked that home run. And then this young writer started watching him, and he only had it one other time. 2 times he had this smile on his face. Once when he hit the home run, and the only other time he had it is when he struck out and went back to the dugout. And so he asked the Babe, how come those 2 smiles are at that time and they're the same? And he says, he said, because I just knocked a home run. He said, yeah, but what about the time you struck out? He says, it just means I'm that much closer to my next home run. Safety in number and law of average. And safety in number and law of average in baseball, if you bat 300, they give you $25 million a year.
Big.
If you're batting 250, they give you $15 million a year. If you bat 180, they give you $10 million a year unless you're a great pitcher. Yeah. Okay. So all I'm saying is there's a safety in number and law of average. You can do something over a prolonged period of time, you will develop a law of average. That leads me back to El Paso and that picture. And that picture that you see there with El Paso, I'm in Texas. by myself, scared to death, tears on my pillow at night, no communication with anybody, all by myself. There's not one other distributor in the state of Texas. And I'm told Sinaloa, safety and number and law of average. And I'm told mental projector. And I'm buying into that. I'm betting my whole life on that. And I have to start talking to people that I don't know. And I don't know how to talk to people. I've never faced high school. I don't know anything. Okay. And I have to talk to people. So I went to the 10 penny method where I put 10 pennies in my left pocket and I could only come home if I had the same pennies in the right pocket. And that could only happen if I talked to someone and invited them. It was awful. It was awful. And nobody could invite to the meeting but me. Nobody could be, I was the only guy. And I started getting people here and believing in safety and number and law of average, right? And I said, okay, 2 out of 10 is what I was told. 2 out of 10. No matter what, if you do it long enough, if you have 10 50 people out there to invite, 2 will show up. If you have 10 to show up, you have 2 to join. If you have 2 to join, you'll get 10 to take off. And if you get 10 to take off, you're going to have 2 that's going to be lifers, that kind of deal. And I'm now got, 8, 9 people to the meeting. No one's joining. I can't wait to get to 10 because I'm going to get 2. Well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen at 15. It didn't happen at 22 either. Okay. Time is going on. Fear is setting in. Mental projector isn't 31 minutes out of the hour. It's 3.1 minutes out of the hour. Fear, tears, and I just keep going on those 2 principles. That's what I just don't know anything. I don't know what to do except stick it out. And I committed to 90 days. And now I find myself into that 3rd month, and I got 40 people to the meeting, and no one said yes. I'm still by myself, man. I call home to get encouragement. It's too expensive to talk long, and that's good because all my wife wants is money to pay the car payment, that kind of deal. And so long story short, I find myself at 47 people at the meeting. Nobody joined, 50 people in the meeting. No one joined, and 51, then 52. And what that picture shows Mark Parkhurst with me and Bobby Depew. He was number 53. Wow. And Bob, I've got to tell you, when Mark and Charlotte signed up, there he is there. When they signed up, I then believed. I wanted to believe Sinaloa and safety and numbers. I wanted to believe the mental projector, and I tried. Now I knew for the first time that it was real. Okay, and now I'm not saying I got the 31 minutes out of the hour, but I knew where I had to go, and I knew that any time I needed to make up something going, it was Sinaloa, safety and number and law of average. So long story there, but that picture is in the book, and that was taken in 1969.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, we're going to have a hard time getting through this in less than an hour because there's so much we can talk about. And I know that when you get the overhead projector out, you got 3 hours of training material in you before you even wake up in the morning. And but what I want to do for all those who are listening, and I want to ask and Freddie, thank you. We love it too. I want to ask my producer to go up to Marcel's comment where she posted all these names because Larry's going to teach us a concept here. And while he does that, look at this. Here's Marcel, who just had her biggest month ever last month with me. And she's listing all of her people on her team that need to be watching this right now. She's messaging them. And so, Larry, she is literally living what I talk about on every 3rd Saturday of my weekly show for business, which is the art. And that's the art of recruiting and selling, recruiting and promotion. And she's living it right there. And I just want to tell everybody, because I saw somebody also make a comment on the screen that says, I need to get that book. You need to get the book, but not because you want to read the book, but because you want to study the book. Because the book is the same course of study, Larry. And you can go to Larry's website. It's themillionairetraining.com. And I've got the CDs there. And I've got Larry. I've got somebody sent me now, this is a pirated version of the original. A pirated version of the original Millionaire Training.
People out there don't know what you have in your hand. They never
don't know what they got in my hand. I've got how about this one? Building Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rohn.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
That's gold, baby. Don't ever get rid of that.
But how about this meeting in Chicago, Larry?
Oh my goodness.
How to build your distributorship.
You gotta know something that's very interesting about that picture. Okay, look at our faces. Very cool, very good. You can look at our faces. You got to understand. Most people don't. A lot of people do. But we were the fastest growing company in the industry from 1980, 1985, and all that stuff. We got hit by the regulatory agency, and it took us to our knees for 7 years before we rebuilt to the great brand it is today. But we were really had taken it. I mean, we went from 100 million to 10 million overnight, man. And Mark and I sold everything we had. We put all our money. Nobody believed that our company could come back. And it was a day-to-day situation. And not only did we have our difficulties, but now all these companies were having babies with our top guys. Okay, you know, everybody didn't want to leave Herbalife. They had no choice. They were not making money anymore, and we understood that. But that picture was taken in Chicago, and if you look really close at it, that's the meeting that Jim and Mark and I knew before we went downstairs for that meeting. We knew it, and we didn't say it to each other, but at the effects of that meeting, we felt it, and on stage, you can see it in our face. We got this, baby. We just got to stick with it. Now, it took another 3 years, okay? Actually, 4 years to make that happen.
Yeah.
But look what we did.
Amazing. All right, now let's Amanda, put Freddie Elias's last comment on there. Let's make sure we're not undermining Freddie on his art of recruiting and promotion skills as well here. So this is what is great, because I get to go live. I mean, you're in the hot seat today because I say you're the greatest salesman in the world. You have a book that was essentially written in 1980. You asked me to be in the book along with many other top millionaire producers. Now, most people know that I married my upline, and I showed you my check here for a penny, okay? Everybody knows I married my upline. I think that's one of the smartest things I ever did. But here's my wife's biggest check in that first year as $19,502. You know, the headline in the Herbalife Journal is "Winners don't quit, quitters win." And then, Larry, you did something that, you know, my wife, I think I shared with you, my wife collected all this stuff and made an entire book out of it. But we wrote you a letter. And you don't know this because I don't think I've ever shared this with you. We wrote you a letter thanking you, and you hand wrote back to both of us, thanking us for attending. What's that?
That's my writing.
That's your writing. It says, "Dear Dan and Marilyn, I received your letter and was thrilled that you enjoyed the Monterey weekend."
Oh,
the Monterey weekend. Who was the
Ricky Nelson,
the artist we had play for us that passed
Ricky
away?
Nelson. Ricky Nelson. Most people don't know Ricky Nelson, but TV star, but a musician. And actually, he was the bridge between country rock and what happened. And he's a great guy. That was his last show he ever did. A week or two after that, his plane crashed and his whole band.
Wow.
That was a great day. Mark played the drums that day with us.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, let me get back on point here because when the Millionaire Training cassettes came out, and I'm sitting at 19 years of age, I'm laying in my bed, and my sponsor says, "You need to listen to these." It was the same time that I got this book. So I kind of had two beautiful things happen at the same time. So here I am. I'm like you. I mean, I'm in tears at night. I'm in fear. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't speak in public. I had no idea. And I literally listened to those tapes, Larry. And for me, I best can describe it that there was like jet fuel going through my veins.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I didn't sleep for a week with any period of time because I was just so excited that I found my journey. And, Mark used to always say, Mark Hughes, your partner and the founder of Herbalife, the height of maturity is taking full responsibility for yourself. You remember him saying that?
Yes.
And, for whatever reason, you took the responsibility because, hey, you could have walked away that night. I could have walked away that day. Everybody watching this show, and there's a lot of millionaires watching the show, a lot of great salespeople watching the show, previous guests that are watching the show, but they all took it upon themselves. And I want to say that I know everybody's going to go get the book, and don't buy one, buy 10, give them to your downline, study it together, make sure you get the principles here. But Larry, let's go back to what I really want to hone in on here, and that is this page 15, where you say the one variable is you. Because it's just, at the end of the day, this is where the buck stops.
That's where it stops, starts, and everything is the variable being you. And today, we all know it. There's so much white noise out there today. You got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. All the stuff that's going on today about branding yourself and blogging, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. But that's marketing. That's not network marketing. There's plenty of place for marketing in network marketing, but it isn't up front. Okay, it isn't up front. And so the only thing that I can say with the only variable is you. If one person, and this is what Bobby told me, if there's one person in the company that's succeeding, it's not that is using these products and getting results. It's not a question about the products. If one person is making money, it's not a question about the compensation model. If one person is ranking up, it's not a question about that. He said the only variable is you and your desire, your willingness, and your being teachable. Now, teachable is the big word today. You got to be able to have a coach for starting your car and stopping your car. You got to, if you're going to park it on the left side of the street, you got to have another coach. Okay, everything's out there for that. Nothing wrong with that. But all I'm saying to you, if one person is doing it, it works. So the only variable then is you. And what is it? Your desire, your willingness to be teachable. What if there's only half a dozen things to learn how to be the great network marketers, the great, you included in this book, the great. What if there's a half a dozen things? That's what I was taught. That's the things I taught all you guys in Herbalife, and that's what built Herbalife to the $1 billion brand. Probably going to be number one this year. And now I got my second $1 billion brand that's going to be in the top 10 this year with PM International. That last year was the first $1 billion, $1.1 billion at 19, and then 20 was $1.7 billion. So I'm going to have $2 billion in my resume of helping to get to that $1 billion brand. I'm very proud of that. And
yes,
we had to start the same way. It's the same basic fundamentals. The fundamentals that have built those companies are the same fundamentals today. The difference is social media said this is the goddess. It isn't about knowledge of how to do those things. It isn't about experience about how to do those things. That's for marketers, not for network marketers. What you have to do is take the basic principles, as Og Mandino said, take the principles and develop them into habits, okay? And that's in the book too, in a different way. I didn't know that when I did the book, but you know what I mean? But it came from all those people, okay? Yeah. All those people. I remember pushing the Og Mandino book and Think and Grow Rich. I had trouble with both those books reading them. You got to remember, I flunked English 2 years in a row. I couldn't get it. It was too complex, but I could get it with audio. I heard it. Okay, for me, I'm an audio guy.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing how fast the time's going, and we got so many outstanding people. Let's put Mindy's comment up there, Amanda. The greatest salesman unlocked so much within me. She's saying what you're saying, and it's interesting. People. I was an audio guy when I first got the cassettes, but my wife was a reader. I married my upline, and so I started reading, and I liked being able to read because I felt like they become my friends when I take notes inside of my books. And you and Jim always said you sit in the front row and you got your journals. And Larry, here's another little iconic thing I got here for you. How about the journal you put out? I think I had the idea to have you have the 30-year anniversary of the Millionaire.
You did. And we had that 30-year anniversary, and we had about 100 of us old guys here saying, look how bright and rich and smart and pretty we are. We had a couple of days here. It was a blast. It was a blast. And you did. In that book, I have one of those too. I don't have much. Someone's got to take care of me.
Okay, I got some great questions lined up. I think I'm going to get to the death of a salesman here in a minute, but before I do, I'm going to have Amanda put up our little commercial on behalf of the Og Mandino Company, because you talked about the penny rule, and you got to talk to people. And we had something happen at the Og Mandino Company where we had a white hat hacker become a client that we did not know about. This is a guy that works at the DOD, works inside of the White House, has done. And we asked him if he'd create an online course to help us get out of the pond. You and I have thousands of followers on Facebook, but guess what? There's billions of people on Facebook. So we're trying to help people get out of the pond and into the ocean. And certainly those 10 pennies every single day are possible for you. If you'll go to Cracking the Social Code, it's $297. You get an unbelievable program from the Og Mandino Company. It's literally changed the company in 90 days to a faster growth rate than it's ever experienced. Habitfinder.com/social VIP. All of you are watching right now on Facebook. We want to help you be more effective with your relationships. We want to help you essentially use the skills that Og Mandino taught about how you honor other people, how you edify other people, how you treat other people properly. Because the number one rule in sales, of course, is always coming down to one word, and it's trust. How do you build trust? You build trust by being consistently honest in your propositions and your offerings for others. So hope you'll all go to habitfinder.com/social VIP. Larry, it's a lot of fun for me and you these days. We sit down anywhere, any public setting, if there was such a thing these days, and you and I would find a way to talk to people because we love it. I mean, nobody loves the art of relationships and strategy and tactics more than you. I mean, you've been doing this for so many years, billions and billions of dollars. I mean, billions and billions of through the people that you've coached and trained and met over the years. And I wonder, I remember the cassettes clearly when you talk about the death of a salesman and what happens in the world. Why don't you pick up that story for people today? Because not everybody loves sales. I do.
Yeah, that's fascinating because, that story came out of my own experience of being feeling bad about salespeople. Okay. But we always talk about who's the most important people in the world. Is it doctors? Is it lawyers? Is it politicians? Is it military? What is it? But let's just talk in terms of moving the dollar, free enterprise, merchandising, because any society's got to have a way of merchandising food, travel, whatever it is that you need, however you provide it. And that's called the economy. But let's say it's doctors, some of the most important. You got to have the doctors, especially in this pandemic type of environment where this fear is crazy. Okay. But I'll tell you what, let the doctors stop performing their duties for 3 or 4 days. Will there be consequences? Yes. Would it be catastrophe? The answer is no. In isolated people, it would be, but not the overall picture. Let the lawyers stop performing law on it. Let the accountants, okay? Let the CEOs, let Walmart shut down for a day, okay? Let all of those things shut down and not much happens, okay? It will happen, but not much happens. But you take the salesman who changes merchandise and goods and services and ideas for money. You let the salesman stop talking, and you'll bring the economy to its knees in days, if not hours, if the salesman doesn't make that transition. And so I never knew that salesmen were as respected as they are. Yeah. But you got to take a look at this, okay? In the income schedule across the board, it is not bankers, it is not accountants, it's not lawyers, it's not doctors, it's salespeople. It's salespeople. And in the highest paid section of the salespeople is direct salespeople, which we are. We are the highest paid profession in the world, period. And so we look at it and we don't want to be a salesman. You know why we don't want to be a salesman? Because we've been sold and we don't like it. Okay. There's what if what? That doesn't have to be that way, because we're not after a yes, we're not after a no, we're just after a decision. We don't care. Okay. Because no matter what, if I talk to 10 people today and 10 of them say yes, guess what? I don't get to go on vacation. I got to talk to 10 people tomorrow. Okay. Set a law of safety and number and law of average. But the salesperson, Bobby explained this to me one day, and about 6 months after I was in the business, I said, wow, I'm a salesman. Okay. And I didn't like it. You know what I mean? I feel good about it. And then it dawned on me, I was soon to be a traveling salesman. And that was a whole different comprehension, but I love it because it's a great profession. And it's one that is certainly the only variable is you. Only variable is you, your desire, your willingness. You can't read a book and get desire, and you can't read a book and get willingness. You can get inspired, but either you got that willingness to work and you got that desire, and that desire may be for $500 or $1,500 a month. And that's equal to the same person wants $500, $1,500 a month. They're equal to the guy who wants $500, $1,500 a week, or the person who wants $500, $1,500 a month, a day. Okay, a week, a month, a week, or a day. There's no difference in the application. The mechanics are identical. It isn't experience. It isn't knowledge. It's activity. And that is the variable is based on willingness and effort, and desire and willingness is what it's based on. And that's the difference between a salesman at $500, $1,500 a month, a week, or a day is not what they do. It's how much they do it. Okay. That's it.
And you taught me to honor that, because I remember, you won't remember this, but it was me and Sam standing in the Constellation Hotel. You fly in. We're standing in the lobby, you flying into the Constellation Hotel, and I said, I'm selling lifestyle. And you looked at me and you said, I'm selling money. I'm selling money, man. And that you taught me to always love the sale of your product as much as you enjoyed the recruiting of your new distributor.
Yes.
And when I sold those first products for $29.95, I wasn't comfortable asking. That's a lot of money for my high school friends now at 19. And I had to learn to accept the value that what I was giving was bigger than what I was receiving. And you taught me to honor that. And I love selling my products today. I love selling my opportunity today. And I think it's a fantastic thing that you did to share with people that it's an honorable profession.
It absolutely is the most honorable profession out there. The dollar doesn't move. Nothing happens without us, guys. Yeah. Without us, nothing happens. And then you put us the highest paid in the whole world is direct sales people, commission people like us. Okay. And if we're commissioned people, guess who controls how much we make? We do. We can blame it on a company. We can blame it on a product. We can blame it on life circumstances. At the end of the day, guess what? It's in the mental projector. It's us.
Yeah. I want to shift gears here because otherwise we're going to need a 3-hour session. This is just fun. I mean, the people are just lit up. Freddie and Troy and Ed and Mindy, thank you for your comments. Everybody that's jumping in. Scotland, it's great to have you all. If you're going to be live with us today, we love your comments. If you're not and you're listening on the podcast at a future date, you could be listening 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years from now on any of our podcast sites. And we certainly appreciate you doing that and sharing your comments and reviews. Lori, amen. Let me also see if I can transition here in the right way before we lead into the close of what you're doing today. You know, there was always this magic about the things that you were saying here. But there was also a system, and I know you don't love the word system, okay? But Og had a philosophical approach to writing as much as Herbalife had a philosophical system that was the common answer to everybody, no matter who you were, what you came from. It was, look, you got to use a product. You got to wear the button that says, lose weight now, ask me how, and you got to talk to people. Well, okay, what else do I do? Well, you're just going to use the product. You're going to wear the button. You're going to talk to people. So there was a system there, for lack of a better, for lack of my word matching with maybe your favorite word in terms of that. But where did that come from? Because to me, there's something so special and powerful because money loves speed and speed loves simplicity. Yes. And you married those.
Yeah, you got to understand, that was a blend of Mark and I's experience and personalities and styles. Mark was just a young kid when I met him in 1978. You know what I mean? He was only 23 years old when he started Herbalife, okay, and brought me in to do this. So, you know, he was like 21 when I first met him. And he had limited experience and he was naive, okay? He never finished high school like I never finished high school. We were two high school dropouts that with this Herbalife giant brand. But his naivety and lack of experience with the amount of experience I had coming out of those old, big days, okay, back in the late 50s, early 60s, very early 70s. They didn't last longer than that. But it was a blend of those two. And that made that possible. And so the wearing the button was such a simple thing because it put a person in business at that particular moment. Yeah. And a lot of people didn't like to wear the button, but that button was key. It was so key. John Fleming and I are very good friends. He's in the book too with the Direct Selling News, okay? But John Fleming was brought in. He and I joined the same company. Remember that Jim Rohn and I joined in 1968. Well, he joined Bestline Products in 1969. He went on to be, they tapped him on the shoulder in the 80s to bring in multi-level to Avon, okay? And they were very methodical, New York stock market company, and it took about a year and a half to put all that together. At every meeting that they had to discuss multi-level, they had buttons, our Herbalife buttons on their table, lose weight now, ask me how, trying to decipher why that they knew it had something to do with it, but they was trying to figure out what it did so they could match it, not necessarily a button, but why that button worked and why the methodology worked into Avon. And so that's very revealing, but people miss the simplicity of that. And the simplicity that who can wear the button, who can use the products? Anybody. Who can wear a button? Anybody. Who can talk to people? Anybody. But you say, but they got to be trained. No, they talk to people about two things. One is what happened to them on the products and what happened to others on the products. And any question that they were ever asked is the truth. I don't know about that. All I know for sure is what happened to me and others. You don't know what the scientist said. You believe the scientist and the formulator is truthful. I don't care if the Pulitzer Prize is, but you don't know it. What you know is what happened to you. What you know is what happened to your customers. And if you say, I don't know, all I know is this is what happened, not only is that a fast way to make that sale, when you bring the people in is the way you bring them up, and that's all they do. That's not called, we talk in our space about duplication. I'll be honest with you, there's very little duplication going on in our space right now, okay? Right now, there's a huge amount of addition going on, which is social media, one who gets one, that kind of deal. Very little duplication, no multiplication. But what we were able to do was marry those two things together, and we got multiplication. And that is what I'm using in the marketplace today, the same concept with what we're doing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And, I love what Sharon put on the screen here from Scotland right now. She talked about this kind of like being a history lesson. And you and I have had a lot of history lessons you've shared with me so many times. But this is one of the great history lessons right here. Ron Henley, in the beginning of the book, the network marketing historian.
Yes.
If anyone doesn't have the book and you want that history and that feeling and the addition to we're giving you like 1/8 of 1% of what's going to be, engulfed here if you study the book. And if you study the Greatest Salesman principles, this is just such a lively conversation. He's Larry Thompson. If you're joining us late, you can read about him as a direct sales legend. You can go to themillionairetrainingbook.com, or you can pick up the book, The Millionaire Training.
Themillionairetraining.com.
Millionaire. I thought it was themillionairetraining.com.
Yeah, The Millionaire Training, but I don't think it's book. I think it's just The Millionaire.
Yeah. The Millionaire.
It doesn't matter.
We go to Amazon.
There's 26 million URLs with something with The Millionaire Training in it. We own the top 6.
Wow.
Right now, the top 6 is us. It's going.
Wow. So lots of things that I want to springboard on, from use a product, wear the button, talk to people, 1980-ish when that starts. And today, I know when we were at your last event last February, right before the world got shut down, talked a lot about 80, 15, and 5. Do you want to touch on that and maybe a little bit some of the things you're doing today to coach and lead and train? You got a book club. You want to talk about that kind of stuff too?
Whatever we get to, doesn't matter. We're easy to find. Here's the deal, guys. 80, 15, and 5 is such a strong principle. Okay. And principles is what you're after. You're not after knowledge, and you're not after experience. Knowledge, you got to start where you are. I was born and raised in the San Joaquin Valley of California, and it gets very foggy out there in the wintertime. Okay. And it's hard to navigate, but you can move in heavy fog. You just got to do it differently. And so I kind of use that as me. I never had a whole lot of knowledge. Everything I've done, I've just done after knowing this. 2 things. If I can see 2 steps, I'm going to take one. And guess what? I will take another one as soon as I see 2 more. That's the knowledge that I need to take the steps. Okay. I don't need the blueprint of how to build the Taj Mahal. I need to know what is the next 2 steps. That's me. That's how I was taught. Okay. And so that is vital, okay, that you take those 2 steps, and that's knowledge enough to get going. Experience, I don't have the experience. If you take those next 2 steps, you'll be gaining experience, okay? You don't have to have the experience. You don't have to have the knowledge. You got to take those next 2 steps to be able to get to forming that habit that comes out about it. And I forgot what the rest of your question was.
I forgot too. I'm so into everybody's comments. They're so excited about what we're talking about here. But I was basically talking about the 80, 15, and 5.
Oh, 80, 15, and 5. Okay. In the network marketing space, and this is what has gotten distorted massively in the last 20 years, desperately in the last 10 to 15 years, is the Lamborghini bikini conversation. Okay. And what is that? You know what I mean by that. Everyone is the size of the check, the car, the vacations, the lifestyle, the diamonds, and all of that. That works for 5%. There's 80% of the people on any successful team is they're happily making $500 to $1,500 a month.
Got it.
15% of them want that by the week. And only 5% of those people want the Lamborghini bikini thing. They don't want it. They may wish it, but they don't want it because it would disturb their current lifestyle, which is freedom and flexibility and family, which is taken out of the equation when you go to Lamborghini bikini. And what's happened in network marketing space is now there's only 6 million people in the space, But in this new emerging gig economy where people are looking for 500, 1,500 a month, week, or day, they're out there. But there's 60 million of them. And they speak a different audience, and they speak a different language, and you have to be able to communicate with them to get the behavior that you want. Okay, so what am I talking about that? Right now, network marketing companies are competing against every other network marketing company, and that sales is shrinking, even though there's exceptions to the rule, and companies are having bonanzas, even though there's exceptions to distributors making more and more. I'm looking at the overall stats, okay? And we want to be positive, so we'll look at that. How would you like to have the network marketing skills and attach that to the 60 million instead of the 6 million? Everybody's competing for the next person's distributor base, saying you can put a blindfold on 6 people, and this one could tell the company story, this one could tell the product, the formulator, and the compensation, and you would have 6 different companies and have everybody in the room blindfolded, and you would think it was the same company. That's the same everywhere. People are missing the scope and the dynamics of this 60 million people that are out there that will listen to you today that wouldn't, but they don't listen to the Lamborghini bikini because some of them have got 2 or 3 $500 to $1,500 a month going. And you got to have fun, simple, magical. It cannot be something they have to learn more to do more. Take this course on how to get content. Take this course on how to walk on cold. Take this course to do that. Fun, simple, magical. And that can be, we're making that happen today across the board. It's amazing.
Yeah, the 2 steps really resonate. The fog story, that really resonates with people, I think, that really want to dive in here. Look at Troy's comment right here with the, where are we at with Troy there? The audience, the language, the behaviors, 80% is massive. There is a massive, massive opportunity today. So Larry, this is episode number 34 on the Greatest Salesman podcast. I mean, who would have thought the first time you met me, I couldn't tie a tie. On my audio version, doing my first meeting in Winnipeg, every other word is and okay. It was just atrocious. But a true icon. And here I am, the ambassador to the Augment. So I get to do this every week. I get to find the greatest salespeople in the world every single week. It is a thrill. It all started because I called an ad in the newspaper that I think you or Mark designed. I know it was Mark's ad that was, I live in Beverly Hills. I drive a Class A. I made $86,000.
He had more tires on it, 7 tires on that car. 200.
That's right. And lo and behold, I call the ad, and today's ad is nothing more than your text message to a friend to get a conversation started, your instant messenger, whatever you're doing on any way you can connect with people in the world of social. And relationships are real. And that's what OG teaches, is the real relationships. And, it's a real thing to go to work on you because you're the only one that matters, as you say in the beginning of the book there. But it's a real thing, like what you're doing today, that you didn't run away and just kind of pack up and go away. You just love the journey. So talk to me about your book club on Fridays. Tell me a little bit about that.
This is kind of an interesting thing because Taylor and I, we got married in 2005, and we spent the next, I guess it was 6 years or so, being a family. Okay, and that was something that was foreign to me. PTA meetings and ball games, and you know what I mean. That didn't happen to me and my early daughters. Okay, it didn't happen. Now I got 3 young girls that are athletes and doing all this stuff, and I loved it. I absolutely loved every second of it. I got to be normal. Okay. And so we spent the next 5 or 6 years just doing that. And then we decided we wanted to get out on the marketplace and perhaps be in some kind of consultant and doing stuff like that. And we put together some pretty interesting contracts. And one of them was with PM International in 2011, 2012. I don't remember. They were doing about $100 million a month. And I said, let's make these changes here. Let's do this here. Let's do this like this. And I said, I believe in 2018, you'll be able to do $1 billion. And we missed it. It was 2019. Okay. It took 1 extra year longer to put those concepts and principles into place. And then that was 1.1 billion in 19 and 20 is 1.7 billion. And so I'm telling those stories because I think Herbalife this year is going to be #1. I don't know for sure, but I'm proud of that. I'm proud of being influential and a mainstay in that kind of growth and stuff with these concepts and principles. It's hard for me. Everybody asks, when are you going to retire? My answer is, from what?
Yeah.
I love this. I know what happened to me. I know as a long-haired hippie construction worker with no education and no self-confidence and no self-esteem, that if I can do this, anybody can do it, especially there's only half a dozen things you have to learn and a half a dozen things to do. And it's your job description. And your job description isn't based on your rank. It isn't based on your check. It's based on onboarding members and customers and having your word, a system that they can follow, that they can do themselves. So that has led us into 2015 when I started noticing the direct sales numbers were going down in the United States and saying, okay, social media is great. It's a way of reaching people, but they have missed the language and the behavior. They missed it. Okay. And so we started putting all these things together. Long story short, we launched we got our book out in October. We started our book club in November. Okay. We started our academy in the shape that it's in right now, putting all the pieces together, the 6 pillars. I said, there's a half a dozen things you got to learn. There's only half a dozen of them, and they work every single time under any condition. Now our book club, we made that a free deal. Okay. You can come and be a free member of the book club. And guess what happens? It's free. We don't even care you buy the book. Okay. If you come and listen to our book club and don't buy our book, I don't want your money. You know what I mean? We're not a match here, baby. We're not a match. That's all there is to it. Okay. And so, but when they sign up, Dan, to get get on the book club, we don't have a whole bunch. We don't sell them programs after programs. I got nothing against that. We got a book that they can go buy at Amazon or from us. Okay. We got the original millionaire training. They can get it for $10. Okay. If they want to be part of our monthly academy, it's $40 a month. That's it. We don't have other things. That's it. But when they get that book club, I can send any new guy in any company, say, go over here and listen to join that free book club, because you're going to get a free chapter of the book. Okay. An audio version and a script version. And it's how to employ yourself. It's 11. And you know it by heart. Larry 1 and Larry 2. Everybody in the book knows it by heart. Okay. And how to employ yourself. How valuable is that? Because today there's a push on 2 things that is good, and it's also slowing things down. And you know what those 2 things are? Wholesale buyer, becoming a wholesale customer. And then the next one is free membership and free sign up. You say, wait a minute, those 2 things are good. They're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying that as a distributor, we go out here and we get a wholesale buyer. Okay. And we treat them in our mind as a distributor, and we talk to them as a distributor, and all they want to do is get free product from us or get it at a lesser price. And then we have the free sign up guy that falls into the same category. We don't know. So we have people join the book club free, get the download free of how to employ yourself. And then if they like that, then get involved in our academy, which is a $40 a month thing. And I'm telling you, every month, we'll finish it tomorrow, the second week of every month on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we do a two-hour deep dive where Taylor and I come in with different people that are involved with us. And we're the online upline. We're no longer the coaches. We're no longer the teachers. We're no longer the mentor to the millionaires. In this role we're playing now, we're the online upline, and we have a thing that will work for anybody, no matter what. Last week's club, we had 3 different people on there. Okay. One of them was a 49-year-old widow with 2 kids. One of them was an 18-year-old kid, and another one was a 29-year-old mother with 3 kids at home. All different companies, all different products, all different compensation models, all different circumstances going on. And it's working like magic, because it doesn't differentiate. What we teach doesn't differentiate between company A and company B. Product A, product B, compensation model A and B. It's all the same, and it works for everybody, and it's magical. And so that's what we're doing. And it's, you guys can find it. It's out there. Come on, take a look.
What a joy.
Yeah.
He's Larry Thompson, everybody. He's been in the hot seat for the Greatest Salesman podcast today, and it is just awesome to hear the stories, and really awesome to hear the comments of the people and all the people that are sharing it. And so many people will get the message out to more. But I sure hope that everybody can add this collection to your library. Certainly you want to add these 2 books, because one is going, like Og says, only principles endure. And Larry's going to talk to you about the principles. You're going to read about it from me. You're going to read about it from the other people that took the journey with Larry in the back of the book here. And it's just an awesome thing. Larry, I can't thank you enough. God bless you and Taylor and your kids. Sorry she couldn't be with us here today. Our prayers are with her and the fam and the girls and everything that's going on in your life and the contribution. And, at 57 years of age, man, I hope I got another 57 in me, because the journey is just real. It's fun. Just like you talked about those 3 people, they're listening right now.
Wow. You're going to make it another 57 years. I've committed to minimum of 95. You know what I mean? I'm going to be doing this after that. You guys are on your own, man. That's game on you.
Well, listen, everybody, it's sure an honor to have you. It's an honor to have Larry. It's an honor to have you. Find Larry Thompson on Facebook, Larry and Taylor, Larry Thompson, The Millionaire Training. You can go to themillionairetraining.com. Like he said, it's easy to find him. You can text me if you can't find him, and I'll give you a shoe phone number if you need, and we'll hook you up. But Larry, an honor. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I hope you have the greatest day of your life, and we'll be back next week with another absolute amazing Greatest Salesman podcast. I'm Dan McCormick. Bye for now.
Yeah, thank you. And you be sure to tell Marilyn hello for me. She's a special lady.
That was fun. Thank you.